Happy Mondays. This week's lesson is still on classifications of skills, but we're going to look at it in a bit more detail. So we're going to be looking at a netball video and then looking at an exam style question in a bit of detail. So let's get to it. So I've just put this slide on for your benefit, really, so that you don't have to go back to the last lesson if there's anything you want to catch yourself up on. So I'm not going to go over it too much. Basically, we've got three continua. You've got, which is the plural for continuum. You've got closed and open, basic, complex, low organization, high organization. Don't forget that those never cross over. They all work on the same line. They all work in pairs. I've left some information for you there. If you're not sure, I'll just move my head out of the way so you can read what an open skill is. I'm not going to go through all those. We did them in the last lesson, but if you're still not sure or can't remember, make sure you get your head around these first. There's no point moving on unless you know what you're talking about. So this is the first thing that we said. I said we would look at. And we're going to watch a 2-minute highlight from a netball game. It's very fast paced, a lot of stuff going on there. I'd like you to try and write down the skills that are being used in there. So, for example, a chest pass and all the variety of skills being used there. And then what I'm going to ask you to do is put them under some headings. So write 6 headings: open, close, basic, complex, low, high, organization. And then for each of those skills, just write down whether it comes under open or closed, or in fact, whether it comes in the middle. It's up to you. Just doesn't have to be anything dead strict, just some notes on it. Try and get your head around it. Okay. So you can already see a lot of things happening there already. So what skills? We've seen a chest pass there. We've seen a shot. What else can you see?
Does seem to be taking England a little bit of time to settle themselves. Nothing wrong with Everett. Oh, hello, Helen Housby. Great pass to find Jo Hart. The 1-2 with Jo Hart. Yes, lovely play. Like that footwork from Helen Housby and also from Jo Hart, and just to wait for it to open up. Lovely from Azura Brown.
Okay, I'm going to stop it there. If the video, if it lets me stop it, so it's not letting me stop it, there we go. If the video doesn't work quite as well for you, I have saved the video in the Teams file for you. Okay, so hopefully if you need to go back, go and find that video. If not, follow me and move on to the next slide. So did you get any of those? I've sort of separated them out for you there. So open skills, you've got a backline pass, a centre pass, and a sideline pass. I've put them as open because it depends what your teammate is doing, where they're moving to, whereabouts you need to throw the ball in front. Well, you need to throw the ball in front of them. So where you throw it is determined by where your teammate is, and also where you throw it is determined where the opposition is. So that depends on someone else, not you. So that's open. Closed. I've actually put a penalty pass there. I should have put a penalty pass in open because it's the same. Again, really, a penalty shot would be closed, more towards closed, because there's nothing really there that can disturb you or put you off to an extent. Basic, I've put all the passes in there. Generally, if you ask an athlete to do that, they'll be able to do that 10 times out of 10, really. A bit more complex is footwork, maybe dodging, marking a player, or intercepting the ball. I wouldn't have them right at the end of complex. You wouldn't say they were as hard as a golf swing, for example, or as hard as a front somersault, but still more complex than the passes. Low organisation, I've put sort of any of those skills that we've just talked about in there. I really struggle to think of any high organisation netball skills that were difficult to break down. So if you have any ideas, write them on your answer, put an argument for it, and I'll see if I agree with you. If you had any others at words in the video, that doesn't mean you are wrong. It just means I didn't write them down. If you didn't get any there, write them down in purple pen or purple text. So, similar to last lesson, this is only going to be a quick task. Do not spend ages on this, please. It's just to get your thought process going. This isn't going to be the main part of the lesson. In a pencil or a pen if you have to, with a ruler, just draw out those 3 continua. Give yourself a little bit of room. The idea is that you're going to take the skills from the netball game that we've just talked about. You can see on the close to open, I've put the penalty shot down as closed and a centre pass as open. I shouldn't really have put it that far up, actually. It's probably a bit further down. But I'll put them 2 apart from each other. And in between, you're just going to put the other skills, so where they belong on that continua. If you believe they pretty much all end up at one end of the continuum, then that's fine. You don't have to spread them out. You can put them all together if you'd like. It's up to you. That's not me giving you a hint. That's just saying you can do what you want. And then you're going to do the same for all the skills for all 3. So, for example, you'd put the chest pass on all 3 continuum, but they might be at different areas. Sorry, I should have said continua there. For an extension, and also to give yourself a good idea of how it translates to other sports, use some skills from other sports to fill in underneath the continua. Okay, so for example, where would you put a golf swing? Where would you put a front somersault on each of those continua? I've said continua a lot, haven't I? Okay, moving on. Eventually. Okay, oh, you might need to pause me before I move on. So if you're going to do this task and follow along with the video, pause me now. All right. So here's how I've done it. I'm not going to spend ages going through this because I did it on the last lesson. So pause me if you need to sort of pause me because you need to mark yourself, and then meet me on the next slide. All right, so we're straight into an exam zone. We've got our heads around the topic. We've sort of made meaning of it. Now it's time to put it into practice. So this is the question. Don't answer the question yet. We're going to go about it a bit of a different way today, but it's really going to help you with your exam skills. So I'm doing it a bit of a different way, like I say. So figure 2 and figure 3, those below there, show a tennis serve in an outdoor doubles match and its classification on the open-closed skill continuum. Justify, using examples, why the tennis serve has not been placed at the extreme end of the closed part of the curriculum. Quite a bit to take in there. It's a bit wordy. This is an official Year 11 one. It's a bit of a harder one, in my opinion, and the examiner says it is as well. So let's break it down first. What are we looking for? So at first, we're looking for figure 2 and figure 3. Let's get our head around those. What are they? So we can see the doubles match like it says, and they've got a continuum there. What we need to notice there is that this continuum, they've put open first and closed last. Doesn't mean I've done it wrong. Doesn't mean they've done it wrong. It's just, it could go whichever way around. So that could catch you out a little if you're not on the ball. So it's put the tennis serve near the closed end of the continuum. That's good that it's put it there because we have also put it there. So we agree with what's on the exam. So nothing that's there to surprise us so far, because we know what both of those are. Now, looking at the business end of the question, it's a justified question, and you guys know the command word is one of the first things that you look for. Justify. This is different to a describe. It's different to an explain. It has a lot of different components, but don't worry, we're going to go through that before you have to answer it. The next bit that stands out to me is where it says using examples. So it's a 4 marker, which is one of the next things you'd look at. if it's saying using examples, I'm thinking that at least 2 of the marks are going to be examples. If it's a 4 marker. If it was a 3 marker, I'd be thinking maybe I give 2 examples to be safe, but it's probably only 1 example needed. But it's a 4 marker, so I'm thinking 2 examples. And then the question, why the tennis serve? So why has the tennis serve not been placed at the extreme end of the closed part of the curriculum? It's a bit wordy, that as well. So if that you can't make sense of that, let's try and rearrange it, make it a bit of a more simple question. So for me, it would be, why is the tennis serve not being placed at the end of the curriculum where closed is? That's the way I think about it. So why is it not next to the word closed? Why is it not right at the end? Why is it a little bit further down? And we've got to try and justify that. And one way to justify it is probably through a bit of explanation anyway. So let's have a look at the examiner's report. So we're going to look at the examiner's report first to try and get our heads around what we need to do in this question. And then actually what you're going to do is you're going to mark 3 different answers that were on the exam. I think this was from last year. So I'm going to read through it. If you don't want to listen to me read through it, pause me and shut me up and read it yourself. Okay, so the question asked candidates to justify why, in this case, the tennis serve was not placed at the extreme end of the closed part of the open-closed skill continuum. That is unnecessarily wordy. They make it annoyingly wordy sometimes. This was designed as a differentiating question, and therefore it was challenging for candidates to gain a maximum mark of 4. The majority of candidates achieve 1 or 2 marks on this question. So what it's saying there is they have made this question purposefully difficult, even for 16-year-olds, even for year 11s at the end of their GCSEs. They are aiming for most people not to get 4 marks on this, and for most people to be getting sort of 2, I would say. So half marks. We're all legends though, so we're still aiming for 4 marks. And when we're aiming for the higher grades like we all are, we still aim for the 4 marks, at least sort of 3. But you're in year 9, so if you end up with 1 or 2, that's fine. But I'm just explaining the end game to you. So in year 11, I'll be saying we're still getting 3 or 4 marks out of this question. 1 mark was very accessible for candidates simply by defining a closed skill. 2 further marks were awarded for specific examples of factors making the serve unstable. A 4th mark was available for some justification regarding why the environment was not totally predictable in an outdoor doubles serve. Many candidates did not give enough detail with the example provided, making only a cursory mention of the weather or crowd. That means they didn't explain their examples enough. So what do we take out of this? We need to take out of it that the examples need to be fully explained and not too short. So it needs a decent explanation. And the 4th mark actually comes from justifying why the environment wasn't totally predictable. Okay. Luckily, there's an easy mark there. The 1st mark is just say what a close skill is. Okay. So for me, saying what a close skill is the first thing you write down. It gets the ball rolling. Those of you that struggle to get an answer started, I usually say write that statement first, define whatever the topic is. In this case, it's a closed skill. Okay. So to make that a bit easier for you, to sort of help you break it down a bit, because that is still a bit of a mind boggle, really. You've got 3 answers there, and you're going to try and mark them out of 4 each. So on your assignment I've given you on Teams, you've got these answers. Underneath it says mark out of 4 and a little space to write that. Have a read of them. What's the mark? Write it down, and I'll tell you the marks on the next slide. Just before I tell you to pause me and go and do that assignment, remember what you're looking for. You're looking for, in fact, I'll show you. Oh, no, I won't. There we go. So, bear with me. So this is what you'll see. So mark out of 4 there. And what you're looking to do is looking to see, have they given it an explanation? So 1 mark for, a description / statement of a closed skill. So have they given that, and was it right? Then, oh, does anyone else, can anyone else not stand word? And it never does what it's supposed to. So then another mark for a good explanation. Yeah. And then another mark for another good explanation. Explanation, and I should say of why a tennis serve should be unstable. Is unstable. Okay, just let me try and get that to so you can see it. There we go. All right, and then the last mark is the justification of this. Okay, don't worry if you don't understand what that is yet, because you'll probably get the idea in one of the better answers here, and that will help you answer it yourself, which is what you're going to do next. So pause me, and then meet me back on the next slide. See you in a sec. All right. So on the next slide, here we go. So the first one that you may have done, this one, okay, I'm not going to read through it, got 2 marks. Have a read at what the examiner said. This sort of technique of looking at examiners' reports is so valuable to improving your exam technique. So really do not try and cut corners with this and think, oh, it's all right, I don't need to read the examiner's reports. I'd get away with it. Sir's just doing it for the sake of it. I promise you I'm not. I've done this for a reason. So read the examiner's report and work out, did you agree with it? The mark. Even if you did agree with it, still read the examiner's report and see why. You might pick something up that's going to help you with your answer. The more we do this, the better you're going to get at exams, and it'll help you in your other subjects as well. The middle answer got 4 marks. So before you go and write your answer, I'd have a read of this. Obviously, don't copy it. I know exactly what the answer says. So you can do your own answer. Try and use different examples if you can. Okay, and see why that got 4 marks. And then the last one got 0 marks. It doesn't really give anything. So it doesn't really say what a closed skill is properly. The examples aren't good enough. And I got 0 marks. Yeah. So see if you agree with it, see why, get your head around why they each got given those marks, and then meet me on the next slide. So there's the question again. If you scroll down to the bottom of that assignment that I gave you, you'll be able to complete the question there, write the question underneath there, submit it so I can see it. I'll have a look at it. But what I'd like you also to do is, I've been asking you on other questions in the past to mark it yourself using the mark scheme, which is there, but I'll trust you not to look at that yet. So answer it, look at the mark scheme, but then actually tell me what mark you thought you got. And then I'm expecting you really, if you didn't get 4 out of 4 straight away, just to change the colour of your font, change it to purple like we do in class, and just write down where you went wrong, or change the words to improve it where you went wrong. And then when I can see it, I'm like, oh, brilliant, right. They didn't get it right straight away, but now they did get it right because they've adapted and they've closed that feedback loop. Yeah. Because you don't necessarily need me stood over your shoulder to help you with your work to get a bit of feedback. Use the examiner's report, use the mark scheme to mark yourself. It's really important. All right. Hopefully I've made my point there. That's your lesson done for today. Go and do that. So there's only 1 assignment for this lesson. There'll probably be another one for your next lesson. I will see you on lesson 2 for the week. See ya.